Simple mechanics, fun airplane construction with lightning-fast iterations really puts this game up there with the best. Balancing between drag, power and weight is both simple, elegant and fun to work around. Aviassembly is one of my favorite games this year, so when a new campaign mission arrived, I just had to take a look. The most recent update is not compatible with older saves, so we'll have to start with a new save. We'll need a normal early game plane to begin with. The drag and drop interface makes it really easy to just get the plane in the air within a few seconds. I haven't looked up anything when it comes to the new regions. We're going to have to scout a bit. I do know where the old regions are, so I guess we know where not to look at least. Finding the first area is pretty fast. Seaport is together with the shipwreck. Getting there with your first plane seems to need a little bit more planning. Looking at the map, I'm convinced I can reach the island simply by shortening the frame and therefore reducing the weight. Now that we can fly in a straight line and I know I don't need any cargo for the initial scouting, this should do. Still low on fuel though, but we are able to coast our way into the seaport. Turns out they're really worried about the hospital and refuse to give us any task before the hospital has been served. Never seen scrap this close to an airport before. Making our way over to the shipwreck, they also refuse to provide us any work. I'm seeing a pattern here. And they don't even have fuel for me. Just about half tank, so we should be able to make it back to the refuel at the seaport. One super smooth landing later, refueling and heading the opposite direction, east this time. I tend to believe that 75% power is the sweet spot for fuel economy. No real basis for this belief, so don't quote me on that. At least it doesn't rip my wings off if I keep the throttle back a little bit. Nothing in this direction regardless. Heading south instead. Running out of fuel again, not finding anything. I conclude the south does not have any extra content either. Not sure why, but I respawn at the seaport for some reason this time. I guess I'll take the hint. Let's go back to the hospital and finish that initial mission to kickstart the story itself. We'll need some batteries for the wind turbine farm. One perfect landing later and the story kicks off. Fun fact, you can experience the tremors from the home base if you return to base just before they start at the hospital. You'll miss seeing the destruction that happens if you do, however, so first-time players should likely enjoy the destruction from the safety of the hospital. With the story started, we can head north. Maybe there's something to find north of the desert? During the early game, you'll be doing a lot of these small jumps to refuel in between airports. The new areas are kind of designed to be a bit harder to find. The desert here is actually further away than the prison airport. I'm not going to tell you where it is, but if you know, you know. The nameplates for the new areas is not visible until you're far closer compared to the nameplates for the old vanilla areas. Flying through the desert isn't an option, so that rules out the far north for a new area. Getting to the snow area is a bit harder than getting to the seaport, but not impossible this early on in the game. Exploring the snow area doesn't really give me any confidence I'll find the new area there either. However, heading back I stumble onto the second new area. So this lonely hermit on the island doesn't really seem like a happy fella. But he sees the value of my services and agrees to let me bring him some much needed supplies. We have now found 2 areas. Finding the third is going to prove a little bit more difficult. When you play the game normally, it feels like you are always fighting fuel limitations, just scouting without cargo like this. I'm impressed how much further we can travel on a single tank, often being able to traverse a whole region from one end to another. Giving up on finding the third area for now, I'm going to the Seaport, where we are finally assigned some missions. They left some of the survivors behind and asked us to bring them. I guess they didn't hear about Rule 0 in Peak? A quick hop over to the survivors' shipwreck, and they inform us they need medical assistance. Apparently my plane can't hold one person even, so we're gonna have to return with a slightly bigger airplane to carry the survivors back to the seaport as well. Easiest way to increase the cargo is simply stretching the fuselage of the airplane. Survivors need 50 cargo to fit. With one engine, we're going to have to do 2 trips. The airplane is significantly heavier now, lifting is a bit of an issue. Picking up a passenger increases the weight additionally. This proves too much for our old fuel tank to hold. But wait, turns out I can cheese this with some loading scum. Reloading at the last airport starts us out with about 70% fuel. More than we had, and more fuel than enough to make it back if you are a talented pilot. I am not. More than enough fuel might actually be optimistic in the first place, but we do make it back to the seaport. Remember that scrap we picked up? We can now unlock a new engine. This would help, but we don't have enough funds to install it. Going back for another round of survivors should get us the money we need. Doing better with the fuel this time. Better. Not good. The fuel cheese works this time as well. With our new funds, we can finally upgrade the engine. It is a bit heavier, weighing in at 2 units instead of the 1.5 of the old engine. But a full 50% increase in thrust more than compensates for that extra weight. Even the extra fuel consumption doesn't limit the range we get from the increased thrust. Thrust that will come in handy bringing the medicine from the hospital over to the shipwreck. We can carry 3 medicine at a time, so we're doing 3 trips. If you are following the story, these missions would be significantly easier. Once you're done with the initial island, you'll likely have both jet engines and fuel tanks available. After that, you can likely build a plane that takes all of these 8 medicines in just one trip. We're going to have to do it in a few smaller batches and land at the seaport for fuel in between as well. While landing at the seaport, they steal my medicine, saying they need it. What is this, fascism? Kinda wish there was a way for us to select if we would like to deliver an item at an airport or not. The seaport is very much on the limit of our range with this new engine while carrying cargo. We are able to unlock both a new wing at this point with increased lift and also our first fuel tank. The wings are much too expensive for us to actually install at this point, so we're going to have to do with some extra fuel for now. Even if we can only afford 1 fuel tank, adding much more might not net us too much benefit. The drag and weight added for each fuel tank increases the load for these early engines substantially. Landing at the airport with fuel in the yellow instead of the red does feel good though. Loading up on medicine and taking off, you can really feel the extra weight at this point. These ramping maneuvers are becoming more and more common from here on. The seaport needs 1 more medicine before it is satisfied. We lift off without fuel. And then nail the next few liftoffs. I have been spoiled with how easy that scouting airplane took off for far too long. Did you know most buildings in this game doesn't have any collision? Chances are, if it's not a tree, you can't actually collide with it. Last load of 3 medicine, 1 for the seaport and 2 left over for the shipwreck. Come to think of it, we already brought the survivors back to the seaport, so who are we bringing this medicine for? I'm merely a pilot. If they're paying, I'm not asking questions. These new wings is my reward. Look at that liftoff performance. Back to the hospital. Pick up 3 medicine, fly over to the seaport, refuel, hop over to the shipwreck, and repeat twice. Really feeling the limit of these prop engines, but jet engines require the resistors or the fuse looking upgrade items. That would require us to finish the main quest for the weather island. Instead, let's add another prop engine. The extra drag limits the value of just adding more and more engines to your airplanes like this. But the most recent updates to the fuselage shapes allows us to really narrow down this nose cone quite well, decreasing drag. The second part of the Seaport missions requires fruits. We pick these up from the northern farm in the first island. This cargo have a 70-second timer, which is why we need the extra thrust. Limited fuel doesn't allow us to reach the seaport directly, so a pit stop is needed, which means we'll have to deliver food to this western airport before being able to continue to the seaport. First time I played this game, I tried to do this mission all at once. Splitting the missions up in smaller parts like this really makes it much easier. Once we have cleared the fruit needs for the layover airport, we get to give the full route to the seaport a go. Landing at the layover to refuel, we are halfway through the timer. Landing at the seaport, just barely in time. The extra money allows us to add another few fuel tanks. Balancing our money just right, we will be able to lift another cargo of fruit each trip by extending the fuselage. Still not enough fuel to go all the way without a layover to refuel, but we can be flat out on the throttle the whole time now. And there we go. The balance of weight, fuel and power is no longer in our favor. Apples expired, but this landing is wild. The rear tire keeps blowing up as well. I can't upgrade it yet, so let's try again. I think we can improve if we maybe save the tire from exploding. That will improve our lift-off performance. Lifting off successfully, refueling costs me the tire again. Still not fast enough. Almost felt like that should have counted. I was literally inside the building when it expired. The cargo is only accepted if you're close enough and not moving too fast. So I guess I landed with just too much speed. Next attempt goes better. Going fast and low, we managed to make it just in time. Trying to make it a bit more comfortable for myself, I add another tire in the back. It avoids it blowing up as soon as I load cargo. Adding another engine could also get us that little bit of extra speed. Now reaching the layover point at just about halfway through the timer. Bit of a rough landing, but that is Seaport complete. Next up is the Hermit. Doing the timed missions is difficult with the propeller engines. Fish and crab have a 55 and 45 second timer respectively, and needs to be brought all the way from the opposite side of the snow biome. That's 14,000 units in one trip. Fruit can probably be done, so let's start with that. Somehow I managed to mess up the cargo limit to 57, 3 short of 60 when I added the engine earlier. Doesn't really matter as I'm unable to reach the Hermit Island my first go anyway. Doing the same thing again somehow results in the same outcome. Shocking. Time for a redesign. The old engine goes away to be replaced by a nose cone. It is also time we start decorating. Here's a tip for you. If you're as bad as I am in color and design, you have 2 options. Either go with black and any other color, blue, purple, red, yellow, white, anything works really, it's black. Or select the worst colors imaginable and make sure no one thinks you actually tried. I went with the second option, skin-colored highlights and purple with light green tanks. And some uncentered text. Perfect. Hopefully this flies better than my other call to actions. The next attempt, I can carry 3 fruit in one trip. Fuel is still an issue, but barely making it to solid ground. It is enough, so let's try again. I said again. I didn't make it back even without cargo. Maybe another fuel tank wouldn't be that bad. All this time I have refueled at the wind turbines. Now we're able to make it all the way to the weather station before needing fuel. Improvements! We're now making our way to the Hermit easily. The landing is a bit questionable. Those fruits are probably smoothed by now. The next landing is significantly softer and concludes the Hermit's appetite for fruit. As mentioned, fish and crab, that's a no-go. Looking at the map, the only place prison could possibly be would be northeast. So let's take a trip to there. And there it is, the prison. You'd think we would have already seen it, considering all the times we have flown around this area, but no. You need to be really close for that nameplate to pop up. I actually see the island before the nameplate appears. The prison has fallen ill and requires medicine. A lot of sick people around here. In addition, they need some fruit, as well as some big batteries. Medicine should be the easiest to deliver, so let's start there. From the prison to a hospital. I'm not sure this is a good development. Anyway, we have some leftover scrap, so let's go back and get some upgrades first. Here you can see the new cockpits, by the way. That was added with the latest update as well. We're going to pick up these new wings, only to realize they're much too expensive. We're at sizes now where using a single engine just isn't an option, so our options is either to use the old wings or to limit our fuel. The new wings should help us. They do have some fuel in the wings already and will provide us with significantly more lift, limiting the workload and fuel consumption for our engines at comparable speeds. Widening the body slightly will increase the drag, but also give us a good bump in cargo capacity. There's a few things in life that beats the feeling of gliding with new wings. Feels like you could just coast forever. Extra fuel and new wings makes short work of the medicine deliveries. As expected. They say that variety is the spice of life, so let's spice this up a bit with apples. Or fruit of some sort at least. My flying is terrible, but we make it over there with time but no tires to spare. I'm kind of all over the place, so with one fruit delivery done, I'll start looking at the big batteries instead. Confidence really is fatal. Bumping our cargo capacity up to 110 would allow us to move 2 batteries at a time. Small problem, I can't lift off, and loading 2 batteries in the cargo hold is not going to make this any better. To be clear, I am pulling up the whole time here. It's just too slow. Not even doing 100 at the end of the runway. Refueling and taking off at the weather station, my front wheels fall off. It appears this Boeing-inspired aircraft needs a revision. How off-brand. Limiting the weight on one of the front tires can be done by lowering the rear slightly. This will shift the gravity just a tiny bit towards the back. And look, we're able to lift off on our own as well. Never mind the game just mocking my lack of funds. There is no need to make this personal, Aviassembly. I'm feeling kinda defeated. Let's move 2 medicine to the prison instead. This should be an easy win. Landing is kind of hard. The rear tires both look and behave wonky. But that's medicine done and confidence restored. Let's go back to what we were doing. Fruit. Batteries, you say? I'm not that confident. The good thing is that we can take 5 fruit this time. Bad thing is we can't lift off without losing parts of our airplane. Nonetheless, 232 coins should probably put that to good use, improving our tire situation. Let's start by trying to just adjust the tires a bit. Still doesn't take off straight at all, and with cargo it's even worse. This doesn't work. I'll go back and build this monstrosity. Actually horrifying. It's squatting a bit. Maybe move the wings down a bit more. That's better. It lifts off by itself. That's rare at this point of the game. Fuel is absolutely screwed, however. I'm out before I even make it to the wind turbine this time. I have my doubts we'll make it over the ocean to the prison, but we can at least make it to the wind farm by refueling at the hospital first. 2 batteries are really going to push this thing to the limit. Just barely lifting off by the end of the runway. If you haven't gotten this yet, batteries are really heavy. Alright, last and longest hop of this journey. Here we go. You saw that coming, didn't you? Back to the drawing board. I don't think I feel like drawing much more. Let's load in something familiar and go from there. The Wasp will do. Upgrading some tires and new engines. We won't be able to make it with 2 batteries, so let's settle for 1 battery per trip. Let's go back to edit the plane. There, that's better. Honestly, the diminishing returns on extra engines just doesn't make this feel as cool. It's not as eye-wateringly fast as you'd think. It does make short work out of one of these big batteries at a time though. I won't force you to sit through all these deliveries. Just know they all went well. Yep, totally well. And with the last battery delivered, we are done with the prison. Only 1 part left, and I'm already worried this won't be possible without jet engines. 3 of these prop engines barely push 200 on a good day, but let's give it a try. You might actually think I'm stalling at this point. What a ridiculous landing. Much better. So, 55 seconds on the clock, 14,000 units on the odometer. Half of my 55 seconds passed, 10,000 still left on the old odometer. No amount of propeller planes will help me here. Only 1 option left. We are going to need those jet engines. The weather station is the easiest way to get the 2nd tier upgrade materials. And to complete that mission, we'll need things from the lumber camp. Lumber and wood logs, to be exact. Logs will not fit on this plane, but we can start with the lumber. Even lumber can only fit 1 at a time. Not very exciting. Let's deliver both lumber at the same time. If you didn't know, I built this plane during our first full playthrough of the game. If you'd like to see that, you can find the playlist down in the description. Back to our old girl. She really looks horrible in comparison. Wood logs is the heaviest cargo available on the first island, some of your early planes weighing in at around 8 units by themselves. This plane that we're using right here weighs 28 units, no cargo included. Adding another 8 units from logs pushes 36 units of weight. Ugh. Doesn't help that the pilot is incompetent either. But once you lift off, she's able to stay airborne. Landing with only fumes left, we finally get to play around with jet engines. These are a game changer if you have the needed resources. At this point, we're about 3 hours into my gameplay. The only thing taking longer than completing all of these deliveries one by one is making this video. A simple like or a thumbs up in the comment section while I fetch all of this scrap would really make my day. And there we go. That's the scrap we need. I think the Wasp is a good frame to work with, so let's start there. bunch of extra fuel will be needed, and each engine costing 1,000 means we don't have much money left over. This is the power of the jet. You'll tear your wings off if you're not careful. This may prove an issue. Let's try that again. Seems the wings start to complain as we approach a speed of around 300. That's more than 200. Attempt number 2. Load up and full throttle. Keeping the speed below 300 does limit our potential. I'm really worried this won't be possible at all without large upgrades at this point. We really can't go much faster, but our landings are still as cool as ever. When we lost the wings before, our tail wings stayed attached. This indicates that the strength is likely the limiting factor. We can't unlock delta wings that come with significantly more strength until much later in the game. This is when it struck me. Okay, don't laugh. Promise? Tail wings. Lots of them. See? 300. No complaints. Other than the landing part. Going to have to work on that. Coming in at a much shallower angle makes landings significantly easier. Load up on cargo, refuel, and give it another go. Small increase in cargo capacity allows us to take 2 fish at a time as well. Lifting off without any lift is hard, but not impossible. New wings are fast in a straight line. It creates a lot of drag and fuel use with any maneuvering. Luckily we have some extra money left over for some more fuel tanks. That should do. One more gracious landing later and we are back in the air. Watch the speed as I pull up for the mountain here. That is 70 speed lost. I think we need another solution. When something doesn't work, I tend to think, what am I getting wrong here? More often than I think, this isn't possible. This time, it works out. Look at the strength of this older wing. 6 is much more than 3.5. This should work. Handles way better than the tail wing abomination we just flew as well. Speed 200, 300, 350, and our fuel ran out. With some extra fuel, we can use the engines to slow down. Look at all that fuel. The extra weight and drag from the fuel tanks is making itself known here. Hardly breaking 300 while over the snow biome this time. Landing is still hard at these speeds though. Maybe there's a solution to this after all. Let's get some scraps first. Air brakes helps you slow down while in the air. For our purposes, these small ones will do just fine. Couple of these, one on each wing, will increase drag and slow us down real good and make our final approach so much easier. Let's try them out. Look at our speed. That's what I'm talking about. These might even slow down better than the tailwing abomination we just made. Now when we get to the Hermit, we can deploy the air brakes. Not yet. And safely land. A few seconds late. To improve our speed further, the only thing that we can really improve is our drag. Those bicycle wheels and lack of lined up fuel tanks doesn't really do us any good, so let's try to fix that. We can cheat a bit by clipping the fuel engines into the wings. Much better. These tires are too weak unfortunately. Maybe with improved drag from the fuel tanks we could use the old tires. Selling some stuff, we can afford another propeller engine as well. This would probably be insane to do in real life, but works pretty well here. We are easily pushing 350 at this point, even reaching 400. Fuel is running out, but with the air brakes we can still slow down. Yeah, I lied about the wheels. They're trash. I'll take 2. Note the one off-center fuel tank here. Don't do this. I'll explain later. That is way too much drag. I can hardly get above 300. Let's double up the small tires instead. 1 on each wing and 2 on the nose. This seems better. You know the drill now. Fuel up, load up, get up. 300, easy. 350, no problem. 400, here we go. Fuel is still low, but that's clean. I think we figured out a solution. This thing is flawless. Fish is done in no time. Next up is crabs. 10 seconds is the only difference here. We need to be faster still. Luckily, we have just enough funds to replace the prop engine with a jet engine. Just plop that on top. Function over form rules here. We're just along for the ride. And what a ride it is. Breaking 400 on the way to pick up the crabs. That's a first. On the way to the Hermit, we can really let her rip. 350, 400. I get nervous as we reach 500 and the wings start to complain again. Probably cost us this run, but I truly believe this can do it. But first, this thing is constantly pulling to the right, forcing me to constantly course correct and lose precious speed. This is why you don't put single fuel tanks off-center. Even without drag in the equation, by putting the fuel tanks just behind another, you can instantly see the plane pulls to the right here. She's scary fast though. Let's do another practice run. It's not a practice run if you make it. Hell yeah. 6 more crabs to go. Let's fix that fuel tank real quick. With that new money, we can add another fuel tank and balance out the weight. Look at that takeoff. More straight than my ex-girlfriend's. Now that we have a winning airplane, we just need to execute. It's kinda scary with the wings complaining as we hit max speed every time, but it works, so we fly it. Last delivery is done with style, bugging out the mission and forcing me to fly there by myself. No cargo needed, but I did get an achievement for the effort. Cargo truck to be exact. I'm probably the only person in the world who got their achievement completing this mission in particular, to be honest. Funnily enough, I've already completed this achievement before the achievement was even available. I like that look. Where are we going now then? We are going... Maybe I'll just pick that up. Okay, it is just barely not an aircraft. You could probably argue that this is a failed aircraft as well, and it would be hard to argue against that, but, you know, here we are. And that's all that this most recent update to the campaign had to offer, at least as far as I could find. Some final thoughts. This new update to the campaign took me just below 4 hours to complete. I'm sure you can do it much faster if you directly go for some good upgrades. Jet engines early, for example, is both easy to get and a huge power spike. If I was to critique anything, I was hoping for some more gameplay modes or maybe some physics options. Helicopters, dogfights, something we just haven't seen before would be nice. The developer did explain that the game is being reworked for the new additions to the map with better options to add content in the future. So from what I understand, the community were mostly asking for additional missions, so it makes sense that this is what was initially included in the patch. If you're looking for something more, I think waiting for some more updates makes sense before jumping in. I wasn't able to show the new endgame cockpits here. There's also 11 achievements that's added for the completionist crowd. Game has also seen quite a few updates since released, so adding some decals, more colors to select from, afterburner features, and a lot of new parts to build your airplane with. Update 3 was both delayed and only came after a long duration of silence from the developer. Just enough time for me to put the game in the likely abandoned category for me before this most recent update. I'm glad I won't have to add the caveat to my recommendation that the game is no longer being updated. I actually haven't seen very much coverage of this update on YouTube. Were you aware of this releasing? And if you were, did it live up to your expectations? If you would like to support the channel and my work, feel free to subscribe. Click the like button, leave a comment down below. Let's discuss what the latest Aviassembly news are. And thank you so much for watching. Until next time. Bye bye.